who have, kind of swum against all, tides and have made a name for themselves as far as Indian businesses in China is concerned. We have Mr. Ranjit Singh and Mr. Ravi Shankar Bose. Both are founding directors and CEOs of a digital marketing company called Fuku Mobile. And then we have Mr. Raghu Ramchandran, who has been the CEO of MMT China, which is the marketing vertical of MMT India, which happens to be the marketing vertical of Ace Micromatic Group. So MMT China is a wholly owned foreign enterprise. And Raghu, because of COVID, he has relocated to India, but he continues to be the legal representative of MMT China. So before I start today's proceedings, let me very briefly introduce the participants, our guests today. I'll start with Mr. C.R. Raghu Ramachandran. Mr. Raghu Ramachandran has been appointed as CEO Ace Micromatic International recently. Raghu has over 25 years of experience in international machine tool business and has played active part in many of government, industry, and academic forums. As a core team member, he had significant role in business operations, including brand building, business expansion, and customer experience in his region of operations. Since inception of MMT Shanghai in 2007, Raghu has seeded the business and overseen the business growth over multiple times. Today, Ace Micromatic Group is a well-recognized Indian machine tool brand in various parts of China. During this period, he is also instrumental in setting up a greenfield project for Pragati Machinery Churchyang Company for manufacturing tool turrets and automatic tool changers in China for China. So that is Raghu for you. We also have two first-generation Indians who have a company called Fugu Mobile registered in China. So it's strictly speaking a Chinese company founded by two first-generation Indians. So let me introduce Ranjit and Ravi. Mr. Ranjit Singh is well recognized in the digital and advertising industry in China, having been based in Shanghai for over 22 years. He is the CEO of Fugu Mobile and has a deep understanding of brand marketing, consumer entertainment, and technology gained from over 28 years in the consumer, internet, and telecom industries. He's a regular speaker at various industry events, and he has been a very passionate advocate of the power of digital marketing to a growing audience of digitally aware clients, and has executed cutting-edge solutions for a large number of blue chip clients in China and abroad. Ranjit is also the co-founder and organizer for Mobile Monday Shanghai, the leading forum for the mobile industry and mobile enthusiasts in China. The third guest today who's going to interact with us and enlighten us with his views is Mr. Ravi Shankar Bose. Ravi Shankar Bose is also the director and CEO of Fugu Mobile. Ravi is an accomplished technology executive with proven leadership skills and a keen understanding of the latest digital innovations for business. In his 20 years plus career, he has brought some of the most innovative technology products to market, advised on strategies for brands, and built meaningful connections with customers. In 2006, Ravi co-founded Fugu Mobile, a leading digital solutions company based in Shanghai that has been working with some of the top brands in the world. Ravi is an advisor to workspace platform provider Urban Office and a digital agency Ascendance. He is involved in promoting Indian arts and culture through a social organization, Chaiti Arts Foundation. He has been part of many government, industry, and academic forums where he has been a strong advocate of digital technology as a driver from growth. Ravi holds an MBA degree in marketing and an engineering degree in telecommunication. So welcome, Ravi, Ranjit, and Raghu. So let me, just give a background to, this particular session. We all are aware that China's accession to WTO in 2001 led to a phase of growth where China was able to provide world-class infrastructure, cheap labor, has been able to bring some of the most, top-notch players in the world of business to come into business. But over a period of time, there have been a lot of developments. And 2008 seems to be a very critical year because of the US subprime crisis. China was forced to change its strategy of development from export promotion growth strategy, attracting FDI, to boosting domestic consumption strategy. So we have chosen 2008 as the main year for discussion because it's somewhere around 2008 that where Fugu Mobile of Ravi and Ranjit and Raghu's, MMT China started, establishing its footprint and started, making a space for themselves. So I think that gives us the, certain kind of a comfort to see how business environment has changed because of 2008 and how is it today. So, let us, straight away start the session. And before I actually start this dialogue with our guests, I would request our guests to very briefly introduce their company so that our audience gets a feel of what is it that MMT China and Fugu Mobile are doing. So shall we start with Raghu? Raghu, please.
Thank you, Venkat. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ICS. Been honored to be part of this session. Before starting this session, Professor Venkat introduces ICS as started in 1960s. So it has got a great history and honored to be part of this team and eminent panel. Can I have the slides, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Just to start with.
Is it visible?
It's visible. Can we go for the slideshow? Yeah.
So actually, this is a PDF. So
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure where the slideshow was.
Go to the view, full screen. Full screen mode. Yeah. Control L. Yeah. Next slide, please. IST Micromatic is based out of Bangalore. We are the largest machine tool company in India. It started by three entrepreneurs, three friends in 1976, who had come out of CIMT, that's a Central Manufacturing Technology Institute based out of Bangalore. The main purpose for them is to look at design, substitute, manufacture, shore up manufacturing capacity. At that point in time, we used to import a lot of machine tools from Russia, the then USSR, and from Germany. So getting spare parts was very difficult for the Indian industries. So Mr. Shirgurkar, Mr. Machado, and Mr. Sathe, three people joined together and started offering design service to support the spare part requirement. Next slide, please. Today, IST Micromatic Group is the largest machine tool company with a turnover of close to about 350 million US dollar. About pre-COVID, we were about 400 million US dollar. We hold close to 35-36% of market share in the area of our business. To translate that, whatever automotive vehicles manufactured in India, be it two-wheeler or four-wheeler passenger car, commercial vehicles, minimum 8 components goes through our machine. So that is a strength of the organization, this particular organization behind the manufacturing. And this organization is 100% owned, designed by Indians. So Atmanirbhar Bharat, we started a long time back. Next slide, please. So this is a kind of a size. We are, in terms of machine installation, we have about 60,000 machines plus. We cater, as I told, right from the design, casting to customer services, completely indigenized and taken care by our own engineers and ecosystem. Next slide, please. This is one of our products called turning center CNC turning machines. We make right from 3 mm diameter to maximum of 1000 mm. So that means we could say most of the medical components to train wheels are the size of the components which are machined using our turning machines. Next slide, please. So other companies is manufacturing system where this company is specifically focused into milling machines, CNC milling machines. Next slide, please. Grinding, micromatic grinding. This company is, we have got a factory based out of Ghaziabad, and it provides precision grinding, both hydraulic, internal and external. Basically, this is a finishing component. The CNC turning machine helps to pretend the component, and the components are finished and gets into the parts assembly after the grinding process. Next slide, please. Apart from this, we have also ventured into IoT, Industry 4.0, to provide a digital factory environment for our customers. Next slide, please. Pragati Automation Solution, as in the introduction, Professor Venkat has mentioned, we have got Pragati Automation has got a factory in China for China. From India, we export close to 50% of our products. Basically, these products are sent to Germany, which is very highly demanding precision components and sub-assemblies. Next slide, please. VDI tool holders, this is also part of our machine, which is again close to 60-70% of these components are exported out of India to European markets. Next slide, please. These are all special purpose machines to address the complex part machining, which is required in the automotive industry. Next slide, please. So if you look at our growth in terms of export, we started our export process early as 1988 or early 90s. The market we focused at that point in time was US and Japan, which was very highly demanding markets in terms of precision and in terms of quality. That is one of the reasons why we started exploring other areas in Europe. And today, if you look at overall export, it ranges from different product companies, right from about close to 60% to about 5% is a different range of the product portfolios which we export to different markets. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is a kind of an industry which we address through our product. Mostly we are automotive dependent. Close to 60% of our component gets into automotive industries. Next comes aerospace and pumps and motor, railways. Other 40%, the 20% constitute in general engineering. So we address a range of product for different industry needs. Next slide, please. Thank you, Shashi.
Okay. So please may I request Ravi and Ranjit, one of you, maybe to introduce Fugu Mobile.
Sure. Thank you, Professor. And yeah, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for inviting us onto this panel. I think it's truly an honor for us to be speaking at such an esteemed organization. I think I speak for Ravi also in this case, but we are very, very happy to share our views here and get your feedback and questions from the entire team here. So yes, so if you could share the PPT of our introduction, I can take it through.
Yeah, Rangoli, please.
Yes. So just a quick background about us. Like Professor said, both Ravi and myself, we've both been based in China, in Shanghai specifically, for well over 20 years. But it's about 15 years ago where we both stepped out of our earlier corporate jobs to start up Fugu Mobile in Shanghai. Previously, we were again working with a digital marketing company in China, which was eventually acquired by Disney. And post that acquisition from Disney, Ravi and I kind of stepped out to found Fugu Mobile. And as Professor said, we started Fugu Mobile right at the time where there was a huge amount of growth in China, and we could kind of feel it. So we spotted an opportunity at that point in time. We understood that there is going to be huge growth in this market, and the potential for digital marketing was immense. And that's pretty much the reason why we decided to base the agency in China at that time, targeting very specifically the Chinese market and clients in China. So over the years, it's been 15 plus years that we have been based here, and we've been working for various brands here. We largely work with multinational clients with China presences, but also with a lot of local Chinese companies too. And the kind of work we do is helping them with their digital marketing efforts, with their various digital platforms. We've been consistently doing that over the years. And as a result of that, we've kind of worked with well over, I would say, about 100 different brands across different industry categories. So we worked in the automotive sector, we worked in hospitality, FMCG, beauty, luxury. So we've worked with a lot of clients across categories. We are based in Shanghai, but we do have an office in Beijing. And very recently, we've started again looking back to our home market, and we set up a small company in Pune and hoping to grow the India presence too, and eventually have services which we can provide to clients both in China and as well as in India, taking a lot of the learnings we've had over the last 15 years and bringing them to clients in India too. We've been also very involved with various industry bodies, academic bodies, both in China as well as some of the better known industry bodies in India, like, for example, NASSCOM, CII. I think we've been regular contributors there and partners with them. We, in fact, manage some of the digital presence for CII as well as the Indian consulate in some cases. So, yeah, and we've been working, of course, with Professor for a long time. And thanks to him, I think he's actually created a case study about Fugu Mobile, which has now been published at SEEBS as well as with IIM Indore. So we are actually very proud and happy about that fact. But if you could move to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this is just to give you an idea of the kind of services we provide. So while we are a digital marketing agency, but within digital marketing, we provide a range of services. So this is right from creation of digital platforms for brands. So whether it is e-commerce storefronts, loyalty programs, CRM management, we build that out for them. Over the years, we've been building out a lot of mobile apps, mobile websites. We are also now with the growth of Web3, that is again something where we see an opportunity from the technology side. And we are building up our teams around the Web3 and the opportunities in Web3. But on the whole, from a digital services point of view, we provide right from strategy, creative, obviously on the technology development and execution, as well as social planning, social media, and data analytics. So when we work with a client, we provide end-to-end services right from providing consultancy on what they should be doing, providing a path of how they should be doing it, and then actually executing and delivering for our clients. And this approach has kind of worked very well with us. And as a result, I think a large number of our clients, we've been working with them for well over 5, 6, 7 years. They've been very steady customers and clients for us. And I think that is something which is very unusual in the advertising and digital marketing space, where typical client engagements don't last more than 2 years. In our case, we've had very loyal customers, and we've been working with most of them for well between 5 to 7 years. So that's just a bit of a background about us. Yeah. And this is just some of the clients I mentioned, which is across various categories. So as you can see, it's a large number of multinational clients and a mixture of Chinese clients, as well as we've been working quite closely with Indian companies who are based in China for obvious reasons. And we formed very good partnerships trying to grow Indian brands in China too.
Okay. So this is the last slide, right, Ranjit?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So Rangoli, please, stop the screen share. Yeah. Okay. So Let me start by addressing this question. Most of us who have gone through this very tough time of COVID, we have, found it very difficult to have access to any kind of information that has been happening in China. So let's straight away, listen from you. What are the current state of affairs as far as that business sentiment is concerned, especially, against the Shanghai lockdown, the zero COVID policy? There seems to be some reports, like reports by the European Chamber of Commerce and the American Chamber of Commerce. There seems to be a certain kind of a pessimism that has come in. So are we missing anything? Is it that these are only few things that we are seeing, but something else is happening on the ground? So let us start, straight away before going from 2008. What are the current state of affairs? Just very quickly, a peel of things for all of us. Yeah,
Ravi,
anyone.
you can go ahead.
Ravi,
you are
please
there.
get started.
Ravi and Ranjit are there in Shanghai.
Yeah,
so
Ravi and
they would
Ranjit
be-
are there in the right there in the action.
In the thick of it.
Yeah, thick of it. Yeah, yeah, Ravi.
Yeah, I
please.
think I think I can start by first commenting on the American Chamber of Commerce and the EU Chamber of Commerce on the report that they have come out with, because even we were invited to contribute on those reports. But we need to look at. I mean, I see that a lot of the findings which have come out, but we need to look at it from a more balanced point of view. So if you look at, let's look at what American Chamber of Commerce have come out with. So if you look at American Chamber of Commerce, they say that yes, the American companies are looking to reduce investment in China. Many businesses in China are cutting, revenue expectations. These are American companies who are cutting revenue expectations and plan for future investment in China as the COVID controls drag on. But we also have to look at, while half of the companies say this in American Chamber of Commerce, but half of the companies also say that it's too early to predict. And even if you look at Shanghai lockdown, it's just been 6 months that the Shanghai lockdown has happened, and it's not even a year. So half of those respondents also say that it's just too early to predict, and they haven't decided on the impact on their investments going forward. So it's much more of a wait and watch game for when it comes to the let's say the American companies. But the biggest issue that most of these companies have identified, which is the lack of international travel. Because in that context, I mean, apart from what is happening with the Chinese economy, but apart from that, because of the lack of people movement between the countries, there has been a major impact in terms of how these companies say that their future would be in China, because a lot of the executives are moving out, and there has been lack of lack of staff coming from abroad to China as well. And just from a sector point of view, we also see that the tech and the research sector is the one which is getting more impacted. But the consumer businesses, even though the growth is not that much, but there is still a small growth which is still happening on the consumer business segment when it comes to the American companies. And similarly, on the report from EU Chamber as well, and this report has just come out, I think, just 2 weeks back, the policy paper which has come out from EU Chamber. Here also they mention that the conclusion is even if the Chinese economy is growing more slowly, but given the size and the low base, it still makes a convincing case. And there has been no major exodus of EU companies, and the general idea is to maintain status quo. And that is generally, while this has been the sentiments of the EU Chamber or the European companies as well as American companies, in our particular business where we have been dealing with a lot of the MNCs, we kind of reflect a similar kind of a sentiment where we understand, yes, the economy is slowing, the growth is slower, of course, this year, particularly with the lockdowns, but we still have a positive outlook that to maintain status quo, to carry on till the end of this year and see what happens early next year. And again, this is not only our perspective, but also dealing with a lot of our clients. A lot of our clients are American clients, a lot of our clients are European clients who are based out of China, and many Chinese companies as well. And we partner with a lot of Indian IT companies as well, where we partner with them on IT services. So overall, the sentiment has been a wait and watch kind of a thing, not take any major decisions yet, and see how it goes in the beginning of next year.
Prabhu, what about
just to add on to Ravi, thank you, Professor. Add on to what Mr. Ravi has said. Our industry specific and also sector specific, we had seen growth in spite of all these lockdowns, though operationally there are a lot of challenges. For example, when Shanghai was under lockdown, the places like Tianjin, Chongqing were very active. In fact, we need to ship those machines. We could work through the policy. Government of Shanghai has helped us to ship those machines by providing special passes for the truck holders from Chongqing to come and collect the machines and move forward. So even now, as we talk, these challenges continue to be there because of local lockdowns in some or other places happening when the people movement is very much hampered. When I mean a local people movement. So though manufacturing has not grown comparing to year on year, but it has not certainly dropped down as such. But the challenges like people movement, when I mean people movement, which will translate for manufacturing industry for material movement also. The truck has to move physically, it has to be driven by people too. So those are all challenges which these industry continue to face. And it all depends on how good we are with the local government, closely we are working with them, local government per se, and how important this industry for the local government, and then they provide those kind of a supportive passes and other things. So this is from the industry perspective. Added to that, yes, in general, foreign travel is still curbing the growth rate in terms of Chinese people coming outside of China for training, because still these kind of missionaries are high-tech in nature and it require in-person training, in-person installation. So both in terms of people coming out for training to other countries or people from other countries traveling into China continue to be a challenge. Yeah, that's from my point of view.
So let me now then, just take you back to 2008. We also, I shared why we are taking 2008 as the point of departure, and that's an important point for discussion in our today's seminar. So I would like you to respond to this. How do you think the Chinese regulatory environment has evolved since 2008 over a period of time? So you had different, stages. So from 2008, you had this fiscal stimulus, which happened for 3 trillion RMB, and definitely it impacted investment on high-speed railways, having impact on Raghu's industry, for example. So 2008 also, 2008-9 saw a major mobile revolution, and China was able to leapfrog PC-based internet to mobile-based internet. And that is how, this coincidence or advantage, whatever you may call, like it has a significant impact on an upcoming company like Fugu Mobile also. But things have changed very fast. So 2008 to 2012, and so 2012, suddenly you see that there is a certain kind of overheating of the economy, and the new government under President Xi Jinping talks about the new normal. And then, within a year or two, again, we see new phase of action, again, related to tech. Companies like eBay and all are driven out of the market. And suddenly you have Li Keqiang talking in one of the World Economic Forum meetings in Tianjin, talking of mass action, mass entrepreneurship, where the government has completely decided to back private players in the tech industry and deciding to give them this label of national champions. So that is one phase. And then after 3-4 years, you see that you have the Sino-US trade war, and then suddenly Huawei coming up with 5G, and then comes COVID. So there have been very significant shifts, and we can see that as these changes have happened in the larger ecosystem, the business regulatory framework in China has also kind of shifted. So what I would request each of you to take up one issue, it can be related to your industry or business in general, and elaborate on how this has evolved over a period of time, just so that you can find it easier to explain with one rallying point. Yes, please. Ranjit, will you please get started?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a shot at that first.
Yeah.
So I think you're very right. 2008 was very much a pivotal year for China. I mean, I know 2001, and we were here during the time when China got admission to the WTO, and the enthusiasm, and you could feel it in the air. But that was a lot more focused on export-driven economies, on manufacturing. They were the first to actually really take advantage of admission to WTO. By 2008, as you said, China was now looking at also growing its own consumer industry, its own services industry, its own demand. And post-financial crisis, as the government put money heavily into infrastructure, I think one key thing what they did there is building out connectivity. And by connectivity, I mean, of course, internet connectivity, but also roads, rail, facilitating, I would say, the infrastructure for business growth. So that was one very key point where China started focusing a lot on that and putting money behind that. Now, how it has kind of impacted our industry specifically, because we are more on the technology, internet industry. Just to give you an example, in 2008, about 22% of the population in China was on the internet, had access to the internet. Now it is well over 80%. So it shows you the kind of growth in just access to the internet and what opportunities then that has brought out. Because by allowing internet access, by allowing high-speed internet access, introducing 4G at a very early stages, it allowed a lot of entrepreneurial development in China. And that's where initial regulations encouraged China to be as entrepreneurial as possible. There was growth at breakneck speed on the technology front, because people were then leveraging this new infrastructure, plus millions of people getting onto the internet and accessing this infrastructure. So that was that initial growth. Now how things have evolved, and specifically to pick on one point, is I feel a lot of the regulation I wouldn't call it stricter, I would call it matured. Very often we look at media outside, they say, oh, there is a clampdown or a crackdown. But in some cases, it's not so much a clampdown, it's just China growing up in some sense. To give you an example, data privacy. Now, I remember about 5-6 years ago, outside of China, the concern with a lot of our clients they had, especially at their global headquarters, was data in China it's not safe. It can be accessed by anyone. There's no control over data. People can do what they want. But that's not generally very true, because in China, over the last few years, the regulation has now moved towards being more about consumer protection and data privacy. And in some cases, the new data privacy regulations in China are even stronger than the data privacy provisions that are in place with the EU or definitely the US. So that is a place, I would say, if I'm looking at a very specific example of regulation, that is a very interesting piece of regulation in China, because they've moved very rapidly to try to protect consumer interests. more so than what we see outside of China. And when you look at it from an outsider perspective, it may seem like getting strict or a clampdown, but it is in some ways doing what the US is now facing with, say, a Facebook or a Google, and you have these Senate hearings and about what data is being leaked out and what data Facebook has kind of potentially been selling to other companies. China has taken a more proactive stand to that and established these regulations right now to prevent this from happening. So I think that is one good example of how regulation has evolved. 2008 to 2010 to 2012 was all about growth. There was not much focus on getting into such kind of regulation because the focus was really build it out, let consumers get on, let them experience it, let there be an explosion of e-commerce, which has all kind of happened. And now that this is happening, it's getting more mature. And then there is a pullback saying, okay, this is all great. It's a great contributor to the economy, but we must protect the consumer. And to protect the consumer, this is the kind of regulation for data privacy, which companies, whether they are international companies or Chinese companies, they need to comply with.
Yeah, Raghu?
Yeah. So one of the main reasons why we stepped into China, just to get back us, the three key reasons. One is we were at a sizable market share in India. And second, China continued to be the largest consumer of machine tool industry. And more important was that we wanted to face the competitor at their place, just to understand before Chinese companies come into China. So that was a time when we invested our resources to learn about China since 2006. 2007 is where we incorporated our organization. 2008, when we stepped in our first year of operation, there's a global meltdown. And we were thinking to ourselves that have we chosen a wrong time to expand our market? I vividly remember February 2008, where the statements were made for about 3 trillion RMB kind of an investment on high-speed rails, which changed the manufacturing ecosystem, I would say, when I mean manufacturing ecosystem. One is the consumption of machineries in our specific to our sector has started moving towards railways. And also then, if you look at passenger vehicles, which was at 8 to 9 million cars consumption, it's more or less similar to what we are in India during that time. Government started providing subsidies and also tax rebates for consumption of the passenger vehicles. Today, if you look at China consumes 27 million vehicles. It's almost 3 times growth has happened. So these are all certain policy enablers which China did for a consumer towards automotive industry, which helped the consumers, which in turn helped the manufacturing industries to supply the machines. So that is where we see. So from, if you look at 2008, the main theme of connectivity is moving people. In today, when we look at pre-COVID or post-COVID, again, they have invested such a huge amount of money for moving things. The difference is moving people to places. That was the kind of an investment or connectivity China did during 2008, 11 to 12, 2008 to 12. Now, 2018, 19, if you look at moving things to people in terms of high-speed network, in terms of IoT, in terms of high-speed charging. So these are all the kind of an investments policy framework which China is making. So this is enabling them to lead us in their industry. That's a very key point today we need to look at it. If you look at a passenger vehicle, example, EV cars, more number of EV cars are consumed in China. EV standards are set in China. Even Tesla cannot forego that particular market. They have to work with Chinese framework and policies to be in the market. So that is a kind of ecosystem which China has made it. Though it is competitive and challenging, but that market cannot be ignored. So when we look at this policy and regulatory framework, it is dynamic, notwithstanding, but that is the nature of Chinese economy itself. They make them relevant for that period in time. That's a point from our side.
So just to, talk about your companies that have operated there, I think I remember talking to all of you, and with respect to Pugu Mobile, I remember Ravi and Ranjit saying that they wanted to establish a company which is a mixture of Indian conservativeness and Chinese speed. So how has this kind of a unique, combination has helped you, develop your businesses there? That is something I suppose many of our, members in the audience would be interested to know. And Raghu, we have been seeing, in our discussions, many times you have shared that ACE Micromatic Group takes great pride in, ethics, and it does not want to cut corners. And China is a difficult market. I don't want to get into ethics or lack of ethics or anything. That's a way of doing business there, based on Guanxi, personal networks, etc., etc. And for you as an Indian company, which must have found it very difficult that that India brand, was quite, conspicuous in terms of its absence. So people didn't know actually, what an Indian business company is doing in China. So how did you manage, this kind of an ecosystem, and and basically were steadfast in whatever your philosophy of business is, and yet you never compromised on your ROIs. So what is it that you have done? Because many of the people here in India think that there might be some kind of a discriminatory practices against Indian businesses. Maybe China is not very friendly, etc. All kinds of preconceived notions are there. So how is it that you feel that you have been treated there, and how have you dealt with that very unique ecosystem, which is full of cutthroat competition, but at the same time you need to be very nimble, agile, and do things in a different way. So can you share with our audience how have you gone about your philosophy of business in that market?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's a very interesting question, and it's interesting to share our learnings. We still continue to proudly say that we sell made in India brand in China. It's a completely made in India product. So initial days were, I would say, finding a success point is when I see that somebody takes our catalog itself was a very success. Somebody says, yes, you're selling Indian product, yes, give me a presentation in the catalog. It was a very happy environment. Somebody is listening to us. Coming back to a customer point of view, they are very business focused. They know very clearly what they want in terms of product performance, quality, and in terms of price. So when the competition is very high, when everybody provides more or less similar competition, so what else is the difference in terms of experience and services we need to provide to the customer in a framework which is conducive for us as an Indian company? So initial days is more of a trust building, both with our partners. We work through our partners. We have dealers right across China. Just to give a point, we are spread across close to about 75 cities in China. Our products are running. manufacturing components for high-speed rail, off-road vehicle, passenger cars, where the demand of machines uptime is as close as 90-95%. They cannot afford to stop the machine. So having sensed this point, we felt that customer service is very, very important. So we placed our engineers closer to the customer to attend to the service issues right across and resolve it in a timely manner. So that is, in that way, we have gained our brand recall, I would say, brand recall, so that they can trust upon the Indian brand. And coming back to the other point of Pragati, that's where we have this make in China for China. Chinese machine tool builders export a lot of machineries. Their major issue is on the service front. The turret, the component, is the second most important component in a machine tool. So they don't have any equivalent brand or equivalent reliable products even in China, even today. So when we started our factory, most of the export-oriented machine tool builders started calling upon us. If you buy your product, can you provide services in international market? Of course, we were present in international markets like Germany or South America or North America and Russia. So where we started providing our service, lending our service to this kind of a product. So this has become again a product recall, name recall, brand recall. The brand trust has been built through that. Coming back to other practices, as far as we are concerned, we deal through our dealers and agents and partners. We are very vocal on our framework of policies and ethics, where we say that this is the best we could offer. Anything beyond that, that is in the framework, we would like to deal with you. And we have a regular sessions on this kind of training sessions, or I would say business conferences kind of a thing, telling to them as this is how we would like to deal. Even if we don't do business, it's okay with us, but this is how the framework we would like. So over a period, it's not so easy. First 5 years was a very difficult task for us to train our people. When I mean our people, our own employees, to be very conducive for our environment, so that they become vocal and talk to our partners. So the main strength, I would say, is one is communicating to them and telling them this is the right policies and frameworks to build a customer relationship. This is the right policies and framework. This is how we wanted to build our brand in China. And this is how a customer pays money for us. This is customer would not like to pay money for anything else other than the product and services. So I do remember vividly that carrying all these tea packs, giving gifts is quite normal, going to every customer, which is a very difficult task for us to convince back in India. So whenever we meet a customer, we need to take a tea pack or something else to give it as a gift. So within 6 months, we figured it out. This is not possible to go and meet so many customers we are not selling tea, we are not promoting tea, right? So it is more of a business, it is more of a product reliability, more of a customer experience, which pays rather than anything else. These are all the things which is from our experience we would like to share.
Yeah, Ravi and Ranjit, what about Fugu Mobile? Indian conservativeness, Chinese speed. How have you been able to fathom? How have you been able to, deal with some of the challenges that have been thrown to you?
So
Yeah,
I can give a just short point of view on mine and then leave it to Ravi. So the way I see how we have been kind of managing this is really the conservativeness comes from before we do any action, before we take anything, we are very clear internally, strategically, that whether this makes sense to us or not. So we do take the time on the thinking aspect, but then the speed is once something is fixed and decided, we execute by China's speed. And I think that has kind of worked very well for us, is we take the step back to kind of think of the process, think of the long-term impact of what our decisions would be. But it is the execution which then is, once decided, just do it, essentially. And I'd leave it to Ravi if he wants to add something more to that.
Yeah, I think right from the beginning, we started Kuku Mobile in 2006. Our aim was to utilize the strength of India and China both, because we knew that we are in a very unique situation where we are Indian entrepreneurs starting something in China. So we needed to utilize that advantage that we had. And in that sense, we always looked at China being known as, from execution point of view, very fast execution of projects. India is known as very strong on research and development, R&D. So we wanted to utilize that, and the way our team is structured, the way we come out with our products, is we utilize resources from both China and India, where when execution is needed, we do it out of China, but when there's research and development needed in terms of emerging technologies, we utilize our India team. And that combination has really worked very well for us. We have also been very conservative in terms of not being too extravagant. And as you know, the call for mass entrepreneurship that has come out in China, we did face a lot of competition which has come out in the last decade or so. But we have been very conservative. We have always utilized what is our strength and worked on products which are to our strength, and then continued in the last 15 years. So I think in future also we continue to utilize this. For example, a lot of the emerging technologies that we are working on, like blockchain or Web 3.0, these are some of the things that we are doing out of our India center, because again, India being very good at new emerging technologies, so we are utilizing our team out there. So that's been some of our learning on how to utilize resources from both the countries.
Just to add to that point, making ourselves relevant is very important in the Chinese perspective. Just to give an example, to start with 2008, when this high-speed railway industry was focused, so we tailored our product and product experience against manufacturing component for this railways. Then moved on to 5G or 3G network. So we started focusing our machines which can make component for this networking equipments. And suddenly, if you have been to China, you would have seen that at one point in time, there was a big wave of this bicycle renting, right? So we need to make our product also relevant. So one is making ourselves relevant to the policies or the priorities which our customers and China government focus, makes our stay relevant. The idea is be sustainable, be relevant to the market, you extend your stay, then the brand recall, brand building takes place. This is one of the very key points from our operations which we have today.
So I remember, one of the things which one Chinese gentleman shared with me was, he said, in a lighter way, of course, he said, the only IP we believe in, that is the Chinese believe in, is speed, he said. So speed is something which is very uniquely Chinese. And talking about business regulation, can you give one instance where you felt that, wow, this is called ease of doing business? Because ease of doing business is something, again, where people think that in an authoritarian system like China, there are a lot of regulation, there are a lot of regulatory policies, and foreigners find it difficult, etc., etc., etc. I mean, those you people know that that's not the truth. But on an average, that is the kind of image or notion that many people in India have. So I would like you to share that one incident which basically made you feel that, wow, this is called ease of doing business. And I remember very clearly, Raghu sharing with me how the Zhejiang plant was, set up. How people, departmental heads from I think 33 bureaus basically came, and you had to give some presentation, the finding of the site. Very quickly, if you are able to, share the setting up of that plant, so that, we know something. And then maybe, Ravi and Ranjit also, if you have any one instance where you can share with us how the, regulatory system has kind of been so conducive for you in terms of its speed to respond to what you wanted to do, instead of hurdling it, enhancing the,
Professor Venkat, as we talk, I would say for the present COVID crisis which Shanghai went through, okay, Shanghai government has waived off 6 months of rent for our offices, at least a place where we are in. So this is a kind of a speed which they respond and support us. The similar thing happened 2020 when we are hit by COVID first wave. We have been given a lot of soaps. When I mean soaps, one is office rental, taking care of social security benefits which we pay for employees, which has been refunded so that no retrenchment of people to happen. So these are all the key areas where they are very aggressive. I should say the word aggressive in terms of supporting the companies. With specific to the experience of setting up our office, it all happened in, I would say, in 2 to 3 days' time. We were looking out for a place which is, we want to replicate what we have in India, 1:1. So there are a lot of pointers to Jiaxing. So we landed up in Jiaxing. We gave our requirements. The very next day, they came out and said that these are all the places which is available for leasing and renting. Will you be interested? So rightmost, the topmost person in the government took us, our chairman was also there. And then we said we have to decide during our chairman's visit, probably tomorrow is the last day. So very next day, they found out 2 pieces of land and then said that you decide with which area you would require to pick it up. So we choose one particular land which was under agriculture area. So we said that it will take time to convert from agricultural land to industrial land and then hand it over. They said, give us 90 days time. The 90th day, it will be an industrial land and it will be in your name. So we couldn't believe. I mean, it was on dot. They said that if there is going to be a delay even 1 day, we will compensate you. Because that is a kind of a competition they had between 2 different cities. One is Jiaxing we are looking at, and there was another city in Jiangsu. So they looked at it on 90th day, they handed over the place, the title to us. And when we said that the factory has to be up in other 180 days, for us, there was a timeline where we need to meet for our supply startup for a German company. They said, we will do all possibilities from the government side. So they themselves gave us a temporary office for our people to stay in Jiaxing. It's all done by the government. And when we choose our architecture and the contractor, to speed up the process, they have invited all the relevant departments, which includes traffic police, which they wanted to come and say that how many containers will you be shipping on this road? We just want to know the traffic flow. We want to know about the fire safety. We would like to know the pollution. We would like to know the Department of Communication, even laying down of the internet connections and telephone. So all these departments were asked to assemble on one particular day. We explained them clearly, thread by thread, the design, what we are going to go about it, what is a tonnage of crane, what is the amount of material, what is the amount, number of people we'll be employing. All these data have been given. Within 3 days, the project got cleared for ready to go construction. This is a kind of an experience which we have gone through. But of course, we are at a learning stage as a country. Probably if it could be implemented in India, it would be much more easier for factories and industries like us to grow up faster, I would say. right from acquisition of land to construction, so that the cost structure comes down. Let's say this 180 days, if at all, if you have to go on scouting for a place, and then if it takes another 180 days, that's about a 1 year timeline. The cost could be different. The project size could be different. This is a small experience. I thought I will share it.
Yeah, Ravi and Ranjit.
Yeah, I actually have a very fresh experience which I'd like to share. So again, a lot of what Raghu said, I've heard many stories which kind of resonate in the same way. But yesterday, for example, we were invited by the Jing'an district government. Jing'an is a district within Shanghai. So we were called yesterday by the Jing'an district government to come and talk to the district government officials about how to request anything we need because of the subdued economic climate, give feedback, any kind of requests which we may have from the government for support. We were allowed to voice those requests. Of course, our team went in. Of course, there were other companies also represented there. But one of the things we asked is, could something be done about the social security payment? Because like Raghu said, in 2020, they actually canceled social security payments for, I think, up to 6 months, which is a huge cost saving for companies. So this time again, we said, okay, given COVID-19, given what's happening, what are the kind of incentives that the government can provide? Is it possible to give some kind of incentive around social security? So they took all our feedback into consideration. This is just yesterday itself. This morning, they reverted saying that, okay, you can delay all social security payments for the next 3 months. All payments due in this year can be paid next year. So that immediate action from just a 1-day feedback, by the next day, the government's already taken an action in the benefit of business. So it's just to show you how quickly the decision-making takes place, even though this has a huge economic impact for the government, because it's basically payment collections after 3 or 4 months from companies.
So, moving forward, there's this one book written by a McKinsey consultant, and his slogan was "Win in China, win everywhere." So, that's the kind of lessons that the Chinese market teaches you. It basically challenges you to the maximum. And then there was a time when, global companies used to, big multinationals, they used to have a China policy, Japan policy, India policy, etc., etc. But given the kind of challenges that the Chinese market has thrown to some of the most, important players, it has taught many lessons to major multinational corporates, to the extent whereby the lessons that they have learned in China have got integrated into the way they, look at the global strategy. Right. So, from your, experiences, Raghu, MMT, China, and Hugo Mobile, if you have to pinpoint one important lesson that you have learned, some lessons are actually helpful, some are not. So, for example, Raghu was sharing that one of the things that MMT China has learned is how the Chinese are, end users are very, very particular about a very glossy finish, but that comes at a price. But if you think that has made your product better, and then you try to have glossy finish in the Indian market, that somehow you don't have much stakers here. So therefore, what you have learned there is not something which you can apply here. So just to give an example, so what is it that you have learned something which you think is going to become a very integral part of your strategy when you're operating in other markets? If you have to pinpoint one or two, in brief, what is it that you would share with us?
Yeah, in terms of as a product company, China being one of the largest markets. For us, if we have to win in the global market, we have to win in China market. That's how, as an organization, we are looking at. That's point number one. Point number two, Chinese manufacturing. If you look at the overall, they are almost about close to approximately, let me recall the numbers. No, I will get you the numbers. So in terms of manufacturing, they are far ahead of what we do in India. So there are a lot of novel things which we learn. One is from the aesthetic. See, we as an Indian company, as an industry, whole industry in India, our input or our design ideology is always to make a reliable product. How to make a product really reliable from inside out. What China looks at is, if your product is not attractive outside, how I can think that product inside is going to be very reliable. So they go from outside to inside. So that is a difference which we wanted to gap. It took a little time for us as an industry and as a company to look into it. We went with the design ideas or design requirements to address the Chinese customer. Fortunately, that was the same design worldwide for us, which was very much acceptable. That's point number one. Having said that, there's another area where we have learned is at the speed of execution. The speed of execution is completely different. The way they assemble the machine, the way they manufacture the machine is at a speed, at a volume. For us in India, we are looking at about 10,000 machines a year for an organization of our size. There are companies in China which makes about 5,000 machines a month. It's a learning for us. When such a kind of factories or infrastructures are required, and when we have to compete with them globally, we need to prepare ourselves internally. We need to orient our people, orient our factories to a global scale. So these three are the major learnings I would say take away from China, which we helped us to succeed in other global markets and also helps us to sustain in Chinese market.
Yeah, Ravi, Ranjit, anyone?
Yeah, I think for us, the learnings have been to be agile and to be adaptable, because what we have seen is the market is very, very dynamic. And for us to be in the consumer tech segment, the market moves very fast. And it's not just from a consumer point of view, but from a consumer point of view, from government policies point of view, as well as the big techs, including Tencent, Baidu, Alibaba, what they do. And all these three factors move very fast, and we need to be agile and we need to be very adaptable. I think that's what has been our learning in the last 15 years. And we have gone through a lot of different kinds of cycles. But our learning is to be able to survive and to be able to do well in the Chinese market. You need to be very agile, you need to be very adaptable. And a lot of the historical baggage that a company might bring, a foreign company might bring into China does not work. So we need to really adapt ourselves to the prevalent market conditions.
Now, let's look at the larger picture. MIC 2025 is one of the big things that has happened in China. As a result of MIC 2025, over a period of time, China has graduated into IoT of things and promoting eco-friendly environment for doing businesses. And then, the latest 14th five-year plan also talks about, doing all that is needful to achieve the socialist modernization, objective 2035. So, given these, kind of policy measures that happened in a very quick time, how do you think, not only your firm and your industry, but largely, if I am asking you as a corporate executive who has been watching the scene from there, how is it going to, impact foreign businesses in China? How is it going to basically make any kind of difference to business sentiment? Yeah, Raghu?
See, as I told, MIC is a long list of products they have, which includes our product domain. That's a machine tool and automation, where robotics and IoT are focus point. There's a lot of emphasis, and also from the government, I mean from the central government level, a lot of investments, research and development, which has been, the purses have been opened up for the areas which government has chosen. That's about 10 different industries is what I understand. One clear thing which we could see is, yes, China has moved forward in the EV technology. They're keeping up the standard. And also they have come to a level in this autonomous vehicle, which we called as robocars or other products. And of course, we could see a lot of railway projects which has been taken globally, Chinese CHRCC products which has been taken globally. Yes, there are going to be challenges for them with new issues in terms of chips and other trade war which has been looming around. But of course, they have achieved a major milestone, I would say, in the industries which they have chosen. That's a perspective from my point of view.
Ranjit?
I think maybe Ravi, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So I think the Make in China 2025 is quite relevant to the manufacturing and to Raghu's industry. But as far as the internet and the digital industry is concerned, quite frankly, the Make in China 2025 has already happened at least a decade back, because the digital ecosystem is completely dominated by the Chinese big tech, either Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba, or new players like ByteDance, right? So it is a given that any foreign company which comes in and who has to work within that digital ecosystem or in the internet economy has to work within that environment which is being run by some of these big tech, right? And this is something that we don't see changing going forward. What might change is there would be new emerging players apart from, let's say, the Baidu, Tencent, ByteDance, and Alibaba. There would be new emerging players who would take a dominant stage on the digital industry, but quite what it looks like, it's mostly going to be homegrown companies. So for any foreign enterprise coming in, and we work with pretty much a lot of the large brands, pretty much a lot of the large foreign brands who are in China. And along with them, we work within this environment. We work within this environment of digital infrastructure, online payments, which is still being led by all these big companies. And this has happened not now, this has happened for the last decade or so.
So let me now just move to some of the more recent developments. The Sino-US trade war. How there have been suddenly imposition of tariffs from both the sides, and the Chinese steel. Tariffs on Chinese steel, for example, suddenly was erected by Trump, and the ByteDance episode also, like banning of apps and all that, TikTok and all. So it also led to certain kind of repercussions in terms of supply of chips to the semiconductor industry, as far as the US companies are concerned. And also there has been, as a result, a chain reaction. There has also been, the latest, some time back, the Ant Financial, episode. So there has been, fintech regulations as well. So there's a lot of action has taken place. So, how has it impacted your business and your industry? And if I were to ask you, do you see, because of these changes in the ecosystem, any kind of changes in the regulatory environment, and what kind of impact it has had on you and your business? Yes, Ranjit, would you like to take that?
Yeah. So maybe I can take this. So from us, our point of view, there has not been as much impact, I would say, from a regulatory perspective. Reason being the space we are kind of playing in. The regulation is more about consumer protection right now. It's not really about whether barriers to entry. So in that sense, regulation hasn't affected us that much. But what has kind of affected us is with the overall economic climate, with this geopolitical tensions, I would say. With some of our clients, we see, especially because they are large multinational clients, a lot of them, like Ravi said, are US based. There is a slight loss sometimes in confidence on deploying new technologies or new projects in China. And there, that has had a kind of a rub-off effect on us, where there's no direct regulation, but because of this current trade war, because of just the tensions between these large economies, there is some kind of a holding back in terms of sharing of IP across borders, kickstarting new projects in China, which are very IP focused or IP driven. So this is what in some ways has kind of had an effect on our business also. So decisions which would have happened at headquarter within, say, a month, now take 3 or 4 months because the headquarters need to be really convinced that they are protected and their decisions of how they do business in China and they are safe there. So that slowdown has impacted our business too.
Yeah, Ravi?
Yeah, in terms of
Ravi, sorry. Ravi,
sorry, just adding to that.
Yeah.
In terms of particularly to this internet industry or the digital industry, one of the important factors that has come in, and with the whole TikTok and the ByteDance issue that we are facing, is really data. And most of the countries, not just US, China, or the European countries, most of the countries are looking to protect data. And some of these global companies or global apps, global consumer apps, are across multi-geography, right? So the biggest question is, how do you protect data of a citizen of a country? And that's where, if you look at some of the new regulations which have come in China, the PIPL, the privacy laws, or the regulations which have come in Europe with GDPR and the US privacy laws. So the biggest impact is on data. Who owns the data? Where is the data held? And even if the large American companies who have been very successful in China, like Apple, they have been asked to keep data within China. And the same goes for TikTok. TikTok is still not banned in the US. TikTok is still going on in the US. But the way the current structure is, TikTok in the US works as a completely separate company, legally, as well as from a data point of view. And TikTok in China works in a very different way, right? TikTok China data does not go out. TikTok application, which is available in China, does not go out, right? So data has been protected from both sides, and even companies like Zoom, which has been an American company, but there have been questions asked: where is the data being managed? Where are the resources which are managing Zoom? So data has been one important point. When it comes to even from a background of trade wars, data is one important thing on how it is managed between the countries, and even from the brand's perspective, some of the foreign companies, how much of data is allowed to flow out of China, what kind of private data is allowed to flow out of China. So those are big concerns, and regulations are in place, which makes it much more complex from management of data point of view.
Raghu, would you like to chip in?
Just to add up, in terms of manufacturing, yes, we saw the disruption where the products which shipped out of China to US started attracting higher customs duty and hike. So wherein the companies started looking at different geographies. The spread of geographies did help to some companies. But again, given an opportunity on the kind of ecosystem which China has got, it's not so easy for them to suddenly move out. But anyway, we feel a few successes. For example, a couple of days we are reading statistics that iPhone 14 is assembled in India. So one of those outcomes is that spread the supply chain, spread the productions right across world. Apart from having China plus one strategy, is the one which is taking up. So as far as our industry sector is concerned, it is more balanced, I would say. If it is not China, then it has to be consumed somewhere else. So that way, we are looking at a balanced growth.
So great. Thanks a lot. So Raghu, I'm sure Raghu, Ravi, and Vijit, all three, the audience must be very eager to ask you, some questions. So I think in the chat box, as of now, I can only see one question. So let me start, requesting Ambassador Kishan Rana. Sir, will you please, enable your video, or we'll just ask this question to Raghu by using your audio only. Ambassador Rana. Okay, so let me read out this question. So Ambassador Rana has this question for Raghu. He is saying, how many people are employed in your manufacturing operations in China? How do Chinese controls apply, say at a political level, including CCP party committee in your company? How is the manufacturing experience different between India and China? That's what he's asking. I mean, you can,
Just to give a narrative, we have two entities, one in Shanghai, one in Zhejiang. So both put together, we are about 40 people. As of now, we have not come under the requirement of to have a committee for this amount of people at our factory level. But having said that, our Shanghai office is located in an international machine tool park, where there is a CCP office. So, though we don't have any of interference from their party, but of course, for the support purpose, we go and approach them as and when it is required. Let's say the COVID support, or to put up to the Shanghai government level. So some kind of an communication does to happen through that. In terms of manufacturing experience, as told, one is the speed at which they operate. Second is at the scale. We can't think of, as a India, manufacturing 30 lakh bicycles in 2 months and scrapping it in next 2 months. So, and that is a kind of a scale and speed they operate, and then they move forward. So many things to learn from China in terms of manufacturing space. That calls for a separate this thing. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Mr. Ravi Bhuthalingam. Ravi sir, will you please ask your question?
Thank you. First of all, it's very refreshing to hear a direct view of Indian companies who are doing business in China, reporting from China live what the situation is. I say this because I see a marked difference between the perspective that you three gentlemen have conveyed, which seems to indicate that despite the challenges of COVID or other situations, there is still opportunity and growth available in China. But when one looks at the larger discourse in India, whether it is in the industry organizations like CII, FICCI, etc., or in the larger discourse, the emphasis seems to be much more on the threats and dangers from China in terms of business, rather than the opportunities and the growth prospects. So, my question is, number one, is therefore India missing out on something? And number two, if so, what can be done to change this? Because clearly other countries like the US, Europe, Japan, who may have problems with China, are still exploiting the economic opportunities available. Thank you.
Yes, Ranjit, Ravi, Raghu.
Yeah.
Anyone?
No, thank you, sir. That was actually a really pertinent question. And yes, we too sometimes face this because sitting in China, working in China, and of course, consuming Indian media from here, we see a very different discourse happening about China in India. And not to say that it's completely wrong. There are parts of it which are correct. I mean, in China, to some extent, there has been an economic slowdown. There are outside of business, there are various geopolitical considerations and issues. But if you look at it purely from a business perspective, and that's where I would rather comment on from that point of view, there is still an opportunity here. And given the size of the economy, given the size of the country, given the growth of, I would say, the Chinese middle class and consumer spending, that's going to continue for some time. It may not be astronomical growth rates as we've seen in the last 10 years, but there is still a large growth happening here. And I would think there is still an opportunity for Indian companies to kind of look at this market, find ways of working together. I would say Chinese businesses are generally very open to any kind of partnerships which drive business. They are very economically driven in a sense. So I would think that for Indian businesses, China still is an opportunity. It's how you approach it, the mindset you go with, and the expectations. I think that's very important. But to write it off, I think would be a very big mistake.
Yes, Mr. Ravi, that was an interesting question as to add up. One is between China and US, but let's look at China, Japan, China, Taiwan.
Yeah.
So looking at our industry space, I can say that in India, we consume close to about $2.5 billion worth of machine tools. China is somewhere around $28 billion US. So that is the size of opportunity it provides. Having said that, like what Mr. Ranjit also said, there are challenges. There are challenges which certain challenges has to be overcome from industry level. Certain challenges has to be addressed from an organization level. Certain challenges we need to address from the country level. At a country level, yes, the challenges still remain in terms of branding. We have been still asked, oh, India does manufacture, India does have this kind of a product range is one. So that's where as a brand, India we miss it. In terms of industry, having said that, we are the only company who are ventured and still trying, and we feel that is again individual promoters' confidence and belief that if we have to win globally, we have to win in China. This is one of the things which thrives. As an industry, we need to start investing and learning about large markets. When the large consumption happens, that is where we also can sell our product. It's from the industry perspective. From the individual company perspective, where are your growth markets you wanted to come from? Which are the markets you wanted to invest for the kind of investment where you can get higher returns? So we feel when there is going to be a 25 times larger consumption in India, in China, we thought there could be returns could be better than going to another markets like Europe where the consumption is less. So this is what drives our vision into China.
So thanks a lot, Raghu. I think, we are supposed to complete this session by 4:30. It's already, nearly 5 minutes past. So I'm very thankful to all three of you for taking time out, accepting invitation from ICS and coming and sharing your views. And all three of you have shown, certain kind of optimism. You still feel that, there are more than adequate reasons to feel upbeat as far as the China market promise is concerned. So with this, on this optimistic note, I would like to conclude the session. Thank you very much, Raghu, Ranjit, and Ravi. Thanks a lot to the audience, and thanks to ICS for facilitating this interaction. Alka ma'am, would you like to say something and just complete the session?
No. You are the chair, so you have wrapped it up. But let me also extend my thanks to the speakers. Very, very fascinating. I think the way in which we have blended certain critical questions that researchers in this country are talking with this hands-on experience and actual feel of things on the ground. I think it has been an extremely eye-opening session. So thank you all very much.
Thank you all, and hope to see you again sometime.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
everyone.